Hi and welcome to the Trading Bell. Now, I want to start in a different note, and this is how I want to start it. I want to give you some numbers here for you to follow. Year to date, January 2nd to January 31st, just this month in itself, the share price of this company has risen by 45.94%. Now, going year to year, January 31st last year until this year's start of the year, the share price has grown by 440%. Now that sounds like it's unbelievable, but yes, it is right here. We're talking about KPLC, and guess who's in the house? We have the MD himself, Dr. Engineer Siror, who's in the house, and he had made a promise and he has fulfilled it. Dr. welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's good to see you again.
Yes.
1 year down the line and we're talking 400% of the share growth.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
You did? You warned me? You warned me to buy shares?
You took advantage.
I believe so. I may not disclose too much, but yes,
Okay.
I mean, this is unbelievable. You are the best performing stock that we had the entire of last year. And the growth so far this month is already showing that you're already heading for the heights.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I just want you to shed some light on it. What would you say is the reason behind this growth?
There are a number.
Yes.
There are a number of factors.
Absolutely.
Definitely, at the time we were talking that time,
Yeah.
we were dealing with some of the serious challenges in the company.
Yeah.
One of them had to do with the fact that for a period of time,
Yeah.
Kenya Power had not been in a position to procure materials.
Absolutely.
And this was not of its own making.
Yeah.
There were a lot of litigation. Whoever would win, the others would go to court. And the process was such that the process would be held in abeyance
Yeah.
until it is determined.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is that a number of times, those litigations would take very long.
Yeah.
So we had a number of transformers out there which are off circuit, which could not be replaced by virtue of the fact that those transformers could not be procured.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a number of customers, I do remember in particular, because I think when we last talked,
Yes.
that was December.
Yes.
I think that was December 2023.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want you.
When you launched your strategy, yes, you did.
And at that particular point in time, just
Yes.
a few months before,
Yeah.
we had just managed to unlock the issue of procurement of materials. That is now the time, because at the time, that is September 2023,
Yes.
we had 247,000
Yeah.
applicants for new connections who had already paid but could not be connected because there were no meters.
Now where are we?
We had 90,000 faulty meters, which could not again be replaced because there were no meters.
Yeah.
So we did unlock the issue of procuring these materials. I just picked two items, but it was, I mean, it was across the entire grid infrastructure.
Yeah.
So we then had an infrastructure that really needed urgent attention. But the people who are so committed to ensuring that they attended it within the shortest time possible were incapacitated and not of its own making.
Yeah.
On the other side, there were people out there who really thought this is KPLC's doing, and they are actually faking it.
Yeah.
So you have people out there who are very hostile with the company by virtue of their inability to address their complaints, to address the challenges they were facing, and they assumed it was their own making.
Yeah.
But I really thank God that we were able to unlock, so the materials started coming in.
Wow.
We managed to start addressing some of the network constraints.
Yeah.
And there are many other factors,
Absolutely.
like even clearing the traces.
Yeah.
I know at some point the public were not very supportive of us. When we made it known to them that the challenges that they have with outages, and especially even at a time like this, when it's raining, is 60 to 70% is because of trees.
Trees
It's
falling
because
on
of
the lines.
yeah, the trees on their way leaves. And we managed to gain some ground when some, allowed us to do it. And the shocking thing is that for those who allowed us actually to clear these traces, in a very short time, they'd come back and they would call me and tell me, imagine it's raining heavily and power is there. Then I'll tell them, but I told you, the real enemy is the trees. So there are a number of factors, support from the staff, support from the board, support from the ministry, support from the government, because there was that government commitment that KPLC should be allowed to trade commercially, so that the social aspect can actually be handled by REREC and other bodies. So when the company was released to operate on commercial principles, these are some of the benefits that we've actually managed to gain. So it's all in line with the manifesto that the government had given in terms of releasing KPLC to deal with the commercial issues, besides now unlocking and being able to deal with a number of the challenges that then existed.
Thank you so much, Engineer, for that. And really, congratulations, honestly, on those performances and really the context that you've given in. Let me just take you back to the conversation we had. And I just wanted to highlight a few things that you had said. That in our last discussion, you had talked about some of the losses coming from Forex, which had impacted your finances. And now that the shilling has stabilized, I wanted to ask you, how has this now affected especially your debt position? How are you looking at it now?
No, in terms of the debt position,
yes.
Of course, you've highlighted it rightly.
Yeah.
That if you even looked at the results that we had given the previous year, if you look at the impact of Forex alone, it actually wiped all the profits that we had made. We would have made an operating profit of 19 billion.
Okay.
But all of it was swept until it pushed us to a negative position of 4.4.
Yeah.
Now, and that mainly because of the IFRS rules, which I know the CFO can speak into, where you value your loans based on the exchange rate.
Yeah.
So that at the time when we were closing in, that is June 2023,
yes,
the dollar was about 140 shillings to Kenya shilling. So that meant if you look at $1 billion obligation, it would appear it is 140 billion. Now, when we came down now to the year that followed, then of course the dollar went to about 128.
Absolutely.
So the same $1 billion obligation would now appear to be 128 billion. And those are now the financial costs that did reduce.
Excellent.
So the fact that now the Kenya shilling has really stabilized has now assisted us to demonstrate our true return. And that's actually why even for the half-year period, we're talking about 1.9 billion as finance costs.
Absolutely.
If you look at the previous period, it was about 15 billion.
Yeah.
The finance cost was 15 billion.
Absolutely.
So, if you look at the reduction of about 13 billion. Now, but what that has assisted us to do is really to have the figures unaffected by virtue of the fact that the Kenya shilling was actually stable.
Absolutely.
So it has assisted, and indeed we really want to appreciate the government intervention in stabilizing the Kenya shilling because it has really assisted us to show the performance that we have managed to show, which of course in the past was really was impacted adversely by virtue of the exchange rate.
Thank you so much. And I know I started with of course, the excitement of the share and how it performed, but it's also good to let our viewers know that you recorded significant profits before tax of 14.1 billion, up from the 538 million that you recorded last year, which is very commendable. I wanted to ask you, because when we spoke, it was a strategy time. We just launched it. Now it's 1 year down the line. What would be your comment on how the strategy is working? Are you so far happy? I believe you might go ahead.
We can say it's working.
It's working. I love that.
The results speak for it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let me go to the electricity sales and reliability and efficiency. And I know you have touched on it where you have promised people that, listen, some of these things are teething things that you have been working on. And I wanted to ask you, when I look at the sales, they increased by 5%, just looking by your numbers, driven by the better network. You also talked about reliability and faster outage solutions and resolutions. So what initiatives have been implemented to improve operational efficiency from your end?
There are definitely a number of interventions.
Yes.
I did mention some of the revamping that we did on the network.
Absolutely.
To really reduce even the aspect of the failures. There's the issue of at the metering end, we started moving. I think you still recall that part of our key issues in our strategy was digital transformation.
Yes.
Where we smarter for better. I think you would recall that.
I remember that.
And the main issue here is that we are moving more and more to smarter and digital technologies. So that whereas currently we still have a small segment, we are moving to smart meter regime. What we mean by smart meter, maybe for the sake of our listeners, if you look at postpaid meters, you would always need a meter reader to walk to somebody's premise, move to where that meter is, maybe to approximately 1 meter. So they'll be knocking on doors to be allowed when it comes to the time for the cycle for them to read. Now, that depends too much on manual intervention.
Absolutely.
There were instances where people would knock on doors, the people are not there. So they would use estimates. And again, you would get customer complaints that possibly they overestimated one period. They would be saying, I paid this much, and now it's higher. And mainly it was driven by factors such as the ones I've mentioned, where people knock doors, they are unable to get in, so estimates are used. Now, when we go for smart meters, what that the way it works is that nobody has to go nowhere.
Nobody. Yes.
I think I spoke in a slang sort of. That's a good one. The whole issue is, without any movement, we are able to know the consumption from the office. And at the appropriate time, you will receive your bill. You'll be given the usual period for you to pay. At that particular point, the system will check whether you've paid up
Yeah.
If you've not, then something happens.
Yes.
Without, again, any manual intervention.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I love this. And I also have to remind you, you made a promise that the backlog to customer connections and meter shortages as well, you would address. I know you have touched on it, but what is the position now? Has that been cleared off?
We managed to clear the entire backlog. I think you recall I said 247,000 new connections, 90,000 faulty meters. That's about 300 and that something.
Yeah.
But even during that period, there were still new applicants. But by March last year, we were able to clear most of the pending connections. Of course, there are those connections at times delayed because someone has applied, but his house is not in a state where you can actually make that connection. So there are a number of factors. But for those who are ready, we were actually able to clear them by March last year.
Okay. Yeah. On your revenue diversification, last we talked, I think there was a lot of comments on some of your diversifications like fiber and all that. And just wanted, first of all, before you comment on that, to ask you, because looking at your numbers, you have increased renewable energy, for example, purchases. And I wanted to know how does, or what role does renewable energy play in your long-term strategy? Because we're talking sustainability and renewable energy. Yeah.
In Kenya, we are really privileged to have a lot of resources in terms of renewable energy.
You're right.
In fact, if you even look at our energy mix at the moment, we are at 93%.
Yeah.
But yes, that is on average. But there are times when we even dispatch close to 100% renewable. There are instances, of course, depending on the number of parameters. So going forward, I think if you were to look at what is called, it's a public document, Least Cost Power Development Plan, you would actually be able to see there are a number of renewable plants which are going to be coming down the line. And we have a lot of, if you talk about geothermal, which is really the largest of our renewable resources, we have a lot of resources in a place called Paka, Silale, that is parts of Baringo towards Pokot. There are a lot of, I think to the tune of possibly 5 times our peak demand. So that is to say, even if we are just to develop the geothermal resources in that place, you'd actually be able not only to meet our demand, but maybe also to export to our neighbors. There are, of course, things like solar and wind, where they are renewable, but they are not very good as base loads. So, but the strategy that is embedded in the Least Cost Power Development Plan is to ensure that they come with battery storage, to ensure that the power they supply is fairly constant, which is really what the grid requires.
Lovely. Still on the same thing on matters, living sustainably and helping people. I mean, and even economies move sustainably. There's a point you had mentioned about electric vehicles, the EVs, charging infrastructure, and I also wanted to combine it with the fact that you had also mentioned about the fiber business. Are they still part of your plans?
They are still part of our plan. And maybe what I failed to mention when you talk about green is that any of the thermal power plants that reach their end of life, we don't normally extend. So that means it's just a question of time before they all reach their end of life. And of course, what is going to be replacing them would be renewable resources.
That's lovely.
In terms of the e-vehicles and e-cooking, I think I remember mentioning somewhere
as well.
that 20 shillings is enough to actually cook ideri.
I
think there was somebody who went ahead and actually confirmed that was indeed,
can work.
that was indeed the case. So those are some of the drivers that we are really pushing, not only for the sake of revenue, but for the sake of sustainability. You want people to live longer. You don't want them to continue using firewood, smoke, and all that. We really love our citizens, and we want them to live long. So that is actually why we are really pushing initiatives like e-cooking. And also we are also moving forward with the e-vehicles. And we are putting a lot of charging stations across the country. The one in Stima Plaza, we still provide that energy for free. Yeah, we do. I think to date we've never charged anybody. And there are some who have really been consistent, coming to charge their vehicles and proceed. This is really part of our demonstration of our commitment to...
Lovely. Lovely. I want to move to the energy mix and the power pricing conversation. And with the anticipated lifting of the moratorium on power generation contracts that you had alluded to, what opportunities do you as KPLC see in expanding electricity sales and improving the energy mix?
Definitely. Like in a situation where this moratorium has been imposed, whenever we just have a minor challenge, maybe one plant is out or one key infrastructure transmission line is out, what that often has led to is load shedding.
Yeah.
What we call it load shedding on our side.
Yeah.
The common management will call it rationing.
Yes.
So there have been a number of, especially, and I think the worst affected normally is South Nyanza areas, where there has been a number of, whenever there's any little thing that happens, then that is rationing.
Okay.
Now, what does that mean?
Yes.
It means that the power they would have consumed, they did not consume.
They did not, yes.
So those are lost cells. So by lifting the moratorium,
yeah,
we are not only going to be dealing with generation, but also the associated transmission lines that go with that generation. And in so doing, then the constraints within the grid are going to be alleviated, and that would actually mean that we're able to sell more. But maybe just mentioning on the same.
Yes.
I don't know if the public may have noticed this, but if you are to compare the tariff that they were using, or rather to pay per unit,
yes,
in 2023 when it was first approved, and right now, it has actually been coming down year by year. And I think the total reduction right now could be in the order of almost 1.5 shillings. Year by year, it has actually been coming down. So that when you even look at our results, you would notice that our sales were higher.
Yeah.
We sold more gigawatt hours, which ideally should have resulted in higher revenue. But in terms of the electricity revenue, it actually became lower. And the reason why it went lower was the fact that the base tariff has actually been coming down year after year. That is for the tariff control.
So speaking of the same point, because anytime I tell our viewers that I'm going to be talking to the KPLC MD, the first question of the many that comes by is, will power come down?
It's us.
So it has. I love that.
It has been coming down.
It has been coming down and still going.
It's only that nobody talks about it. You know, normally when it comes down, people keep quiet.
Yes.
But when they just notice it's going up, they make a lot of noise. So the fact that people have been quiet is an indication that actually it has been coming down.
Yes. Quick follow-up on our conversation, because I was speaking a lot from that of the promises, and you have fulfilled so many of them, which is very good. There was a discussion we had on the IPPs, that's the independent power producers and high-cost contracts, which was a public concern. I wanted to ask you, are there still negotiations happening within your spheres so that at least you can save a lot and probably realize what you hope to achieve?
Speaking from this platform,
yes,
one of the key issues, even for the stability of any sector,
yes,
and indeed any engagement, is the sanctity of contracts.
Yes,
as the CEO of KPLC,
yes,
I'm here to affirm that we take our contracts very seriously. So that even as we engage any of those we have contracted, we engage them from the perspective that the contract we signed with them are sanctity and is guaranteed. Indeed, we did have conversations with some of the IPPs. But that was the foundation, first of all, that we respect sanctity of contracts.
Excellent.
But the way we were approaching it in terms of a win-win scenario, because at the time, I think when there was really a public outcry, and rightfully so, because the Kenya shilling was being exchanged for, it went up to over 160 shillings.
160 and above.
So that when people now looked at the unit, I mean, the cost that they were paying per unit, and this was further complicated by the fact that the fuel prices were also equally high.
Absolutely.
So what does that mean? That really they were very constrained, and indeed the sales went down. So that now our engagement with the IPPs was on a win-win scenario. And the win-win that we were engaging them on is the fact that if you look what forms the tariff, it's first of all the capital they have used to set up the plant. Of course, the cost of capital comes in. But there is also the element on return of investment. So in a contract, for example, where the contract period was 20 years, they were to recoup their investment and to have that return within that period. And our engagement was, if we were to extend this period, so that now you don't recover within a 20-year period, and to a 30-year period or 25-year period, so that you see, in so doing then, what you are going to be recovering per year is going to be lower than what you would have recovered if the period was shorter. So that was really the framework of engagement. For those who agreed, we were willing to, of course, we had those gains. But for those who wanted to stand by their contracts, we stood by them. Because really, at the end of the day, sanctity of contracts.
Absolutely. And we certainly hope for the best in all these conversations. As we come to a close, I want to now look towards the future and, just your promise as well. We love promises now with this conversation with what has happened so far.
True.
So I wanted to ask about the measures you've put as KPLC to ensure more reliable power, affordable power, and especially for businesses, because you drive the economy really. What would be your assurance?
There are a number of things a number of interventions that we are putting in place. I did mention to you, for example, the issue of smart meters. Moving in that direction, the whole issue is really to reduce the manual intervention as much as possible.
Yeah.
And not only to reduce that manual intervention, to reduce the costs that go with that manual intervention.
Absolutely.
The other area that we're also looking at is to provide redundancy in terms of supplying our customers. In an environment where you want to guarantee availability, one of the things that supports that is an perspective, or rather is an arrangement where you are not being supplied from one source. Because definitely globally, lines do fail and things do happen within the network. But the fact of the difference that will be there between those who are able to provide that reliability and those who are not are the measures they have put in place within their grid to ensure that if one link fails, then you are being supplied from the other side. Now, one of the ways that you can do that, of course, is by providing redundancy within the links, because in our country, I think most of our lines are radio. What we mean by radio is like it's a line. So all the customers are on that line. If you collapse that line from the source, all the customers are affected. But in an environment where you want to provide very high reliability, you provide it in a ring manner. So that this side fails, you can be supplied from the alternate ring. And again, to support that is what is called an advanced distribution management system, where again, you don't even require, because there are places where, yes, that can happen, but you'll need to send somebody to go and switch from being supplied from one side, and now they are supplied from the other one. So predominantly, we are going to be creating rings and also implementing advanced distribution management systems to ensure that our customers are not fed, especially the premium customers and those in the urban areas where the reliance on electricity is really very high. So that is our target. We want to revamp the grid and ensure that the aging part of the grid is revamped. And then the places which have gaps, we deal with it. The transmission lines that need to be completed, we can work with our partners to ensure all this is completed so that we can provide reliable power to all our customers.
Excellent, excellent. Part 2 of the future outlook as well, and I love this. But you've spoken about partnerships as well. Are you talking about also looking at your neighboring countries and see how you can ensure your circular way of supply is happening?
In fact, talking about that, that's a very interesting. You know, the first interconnector that Kenya has was built in the 50s. That is the one to Ginger. The next one now that came on board is the one to Ethiopia, which was done in 2021. And that one has a capacity of almost 2,000 megawatts. Of course, subject to limitations, I think there is a capping of about 600 megawatts. The latest,
what's the latest?
Is with Tanzania.
We
just happened the other day.
Yes.
So we are now interlinked with those countries. And those interlinkages also can speak to our future in terms of being able to assist one another. You may have plenty at one point, and you can assist your neighbors. Your neighbors can have plenty, and you can also be assisted from them. But even what is more important really is that looking to the future, we have what is called the East African Power Pool. The East African Power Pool is a combination of about 13 countries, or 13 utilities, spanning from Egypt, coming all the way to Libya, Sudan, all the way to Rwanda, Burundi, DRC. This is going to be one trading area. This is to mimic what you have in South Africa, which is called the South African Power Pool. And the regime that we are looking to the future is where we have energy auctions. The same way you are auctioning. Almost mimicking the same. You can also have an energy exchange where now someone says, I have this amount of power, I'm willing to sell at this much. And the lowest.
That's lovely.
The carries the deal.
That's the future.
This other one is the lowest.
True. I love this.
True.
What are your opportunities or risks? Because I know your seat is always hot, always thinking about ahead. What are you seeing as opportunities you could tap into more, or some of the risks probably that you've seen you need to be thinking about?
The biggest risk is what you mentioned before, in terms of the moratorium. Because we are staring at a situation where if the moratorium is not lifted and we start having this generation, more and more generation coming on board, then we are standing at a serious risk. But the risk does not manifest this year. Though, like I mentioned before, we have had occasions where we ration, because when there is just a minor thing, then it leads directly because we don't have a reserve margin. But if that is not that does not happen, so that we get these new plants coming on board, then that is going to be affected the most about 2 years. Because look here that from the time it is lifted and you start developing a plant, it will take you 2 years
Yeah.
before it starts generating. So that is to say, if it's not done now, the real impact is going to be felt not right now,
Yes.
but in a year or in 2 years' time. So that is one of the risks.
Yeah.
The other risk, of course, is the need really to deal with the network. And one of them is, of course, revamping.
Yeah.
The other one is vandalism. And we really want to rally
Yeah.
our customers.
Yeah.
And each well-meaning Kenyan.
Yeah.
We assist ourselves in this battle of dealing with vandalism.
Yeah.
In fact, I think there is an MP which really rallied these people that whenever they just see a blackout,
Yeah.
or rather an outage in their area,
Yeah.
they should all run towards a transformer. And it has assisted them. Not a single transformer has been vandalized since that time. And this could be the call that we can call the Kenyans.
Yes.
That whenever they see an outage, let them all move to the transformer.
Yes.
Because if those guys are there and they just see the numbers, they'll just leave. And they'll be guaranteed, instead of having it is vandalized,
Yeah.
now they start telling us you should repair immediately or that kind of a thing. So that is another area.
Excellent.
And indeed, I think on the same vein, Kenya exported copper worth 8 billion last year, 7 billion last year.
Wow.
And we are not a copper mining country.
We're not.
If you look at the transformers we lost, not to mention the lives which were affected,
Yeah.
the people who are sick, who are depending on those supplies,
Yes.
vis-a-vis the paltry 7 billion, really, and that has been our call,
Yeah.
that we may actually need to ban
Yeah.
the export, especially the export of copper, if not
copper, yes.
the entire trading of copper.
Absolutely.
Because it's damaging lives. For us, it's revenue, and of course, losing the transformers because we have to replace them. But to the public out there, it could be an hospital
Yeah.
which has gone off supply.
Because-
It could be a patient who was depending on certain things for that power to be there.
Yeah.
And it is totally messed up by virtue of somebody looking at the little copper
Yeah,
they would actually
that
get
can
from,
get,
from,
yeah.
from this transformer.
Yeah.
Those are some of the challenges that we have. And of course, still the support of the Kenyan public.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest risks and opportunities is for the Kenyan public to come to our side.
You're right.
I know we've managed to gain ground, and more are seeing us as partners. And I think the biggest opportunity
Yes.
is if each and every Kenyan would see us as their partners,
Yes.
so that we partner together. They can be guaranteed the quality of supply, and even possibly, ultimately, even the cost of power is going to come down.
Absolutely.
Because they are going to assist us in dealing with vandalism. They are going to assist us in allowing us to clear the traces. Because the moment you don't clear, like even I think I was dealing with a case the other day, a tree within Nairobi
Yeah.
collapses and it damages our life, and it takes us a day or so now to deal with that.
Yeah.
But if they had just allowed us to remove that tree which was close to the trace,
Yeah.
they would not have been inconvenienced.
The way
Their
it was,
food,
yeah.
the food which they lost, and even that inconvenience of not having power for 1 or so days.
Absolutely.
So I think that cooperation, and indeed of the media and
Yeah.
of all well-meaning Kenyans, is really going to assist us in ensuring the reliability,
Yes.
the cost, and
Yeah.
all parameters
Okay.
that have to deal with power.
Engineer, I have to end with the same way I ended the other time. 400% in 1 year. That was so good. What's your promise to shareholders?
My promise to shareholders,
Yes.
watch this space.
What's the space?
Watch this space,
Yes.
but more importantly,
Yeah.
watch the power reliability
Yes.
and the quality of supply in this country.
Yes.
It is improving. It will never go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should not fear that the share price will never come down.
Okay.
They should. Because if you really look at our share price, even if it was, I don't know what it is today, but
Yes.
if it's even around 7 shillings,
Yes.
with 2 billion shares, that is only 14 billion.
Yes.
And yet, our profit for half year,
Yes.
before tax, is 14 billion. And our shares,
Yes.
in terms of our asset value,
Yeah.
is 385 billion.
Wow.
Something is not right.
Yeah.
And you know it.
But I know. So they better stay put.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Thank you so much, engineer. Always an honor. By the way, I have a gift for you because
Wonderful.
of how you've done it.
Okay.
So I want to put this
Okay.
on you.
Wonderful.
Just to induct you into the Hall of Fame.
Excellent.
Now that you are performing this way, best performing
Wonderful.
stock
Wonderful.
for the last whole year,
Thank you.
400%. We have not seen this before.
Thank you. It will continue happening.
There you go. There you go. Asante sana.
Asante sana.
Okay. I leave you now with the markets. Thank you so much.